My name's Mary, and I'm coming to you from the Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine. And today we're going to talk about the first man on the moon. Now, if you've been reading the paper, and I'm not sure many of you have been reading the paper, but there is talk about more trips to the moon. But there had to be the first ones. And it all happened in 1969. Now, the moon has always been a very, very important item in the world for all people from the beginning of time, because whenever they looked up into the heavens, there was the large orb that changed throughout the month. It became bigger and then smaller, and they became all kinds of folk tales and stories all about the moon, and people wondered all about it. Scientists began to study the moon, and then they began to think about traveling to the moon. At first it was science fiction, and there were a lot of science fiction books written about it, and some early movies about going to the moon. But it finally happened in 1969. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA, was behind it. There had been many, many other missions into the heavens. There were the Mercury missions, the Gemini missions, and then the Apollo missions. And it was an Apollo mission that went to the moon. And this is One Giant Leap. This book is by Robert Burley, and the paintings are by Mike Wimmer. The book was published by Philomel Books, a division of Penguin Young Readers Group, and it was published in 2009. And at that point, they were celebrating the 50th anniversary of landing on the moon. One Giant Leap. July 20, 1969. 70 miles up, the two spaceships, Eagle and Columbia, separate. They orbit in sight of each other one last time. Then the Eagle begins to descend to where no human has ever been, to the moon. The Eagle is like a gold speckled bug falling out of the sky, its odd-shaped body plastered with many boxes, its outer walls thinner than human skin. The spacecraft's spindly legs poke out as if it rides on its back. At 8,000 feet, it tilts and straightens, breaks its descent, slows, drifts down through space. The astronauts look out at last. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, they stand upright before two small windows. Their eyes widen. Look, rushing up toward them. The moon. It's gray, it's brown, it's blue-edged. Its billion-year-old landscape is cracked and scarred. Its surface gouged and cratered and pitted with tiny holes like a battlefield from some ancient war. The radio voice crackles from Earth. 240,000 miles away. Eagle, Houston, your go for landing. Armstrong tenses forward, feeling the seconds tick, aware that the fuel is sinking toward zero. Timing is everything. His gaze darts between nearby rows of switches and the strange world below. Dark ridges rise like forbidding walls. Spidery shadows creep in the rising sunlight. Boulders loom up as big as cars. He glances again at the flashing dial. Fuel running short. Where can he land? Eagle, 90 seconds of descent fuel left. Armstrong hears the warning. Now, all he has ever learned is focused on this. Nothing matters but this exact moment. Aldrin's non-stop voice calls out altitude numbers. 40 feet, 35, 30. Down they move, down and down, fast enough to conserve precious fuel, slow enough to land somewhere safely, he hopes. The Eagle dips, hovers, zigs, zags, dances over its own dark shadow. The seconds tick forward, tick toward eternity. Time stops. Clouds of moon dust swirl like blackening fog, an almost terrifying blindness, and then, with only the very slightest bump, the small craft touches down. Whew. The Eagle has landed. High overhead, Michael Collins listens but cannot see. They made it. They made it. The Columbia orbits and waits. Collins has waited a lifetime for this, yet for him, the waiting is not over. In Houston, on Earth, hundreds in the control room break into wild cheers. The first humans on the moon. But in this other place, it's very quiet. It's lunar morning on the Sea of Tranquility. Armstrong lets out another deep breath and turns. He raises his gloved hand and meets Aldrin's gloved hand halfway. We did it. We're here. Exploration time. Armstrong and Aldrin add still more to their spacesuits. There are new overshoes and heavier gloves, a visored helmet to protect against sunlight, and an oxygen-filled backpack thick as a sofa pillow. They pause to gaze out. An endless, mysterious wasteland whose distant hills are as sharply outlined as nearby stones. No water, no wind, no sound, no life at all. Unbelievable. A hatch opens. Armstrong, on all fours, crawls through its small space. He moves awkwardly in his moon cocoon. Outside, on the narrow porch, where a ladder is attached to one landing leg, he climbs to the bottom rung and stops. A TV camera placed in the Eagle's hatchway is pointed down. Armstrong knows that back on Earth, hundreds of millions of people are watching. He jumps to the landing leg's round footpad. He holds on, he pauses, he points his foot and steps off. The surface is as fine as powdered charcoal. The treads of his boot leave a perfectly crisp print in the dust. On the weatherless moon, it will last for millions of years. His voice sounds staticky and far away. That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. In orbit, Michael Collins listens and waits. Now it's Buzz Aldrin's turn. He climbs down, feeling full of goose pimples. Together, the astronauts go moonwalking. Flexing their toes and ankles, they walk stiffly, as if navigating inside a rigid balloon. But moving about is easier than they expected. They twirl like slow-motion tiptoe dancers. They jog, they kangaroo hop, like two boys bouncing on a trampoline. Because of the moon's lesser gravity, they feel light as air. Armstrong checks the time. They must hurry. They have just 2 hours on this strange and beautiful world. They use long metal tongs to collect rocks. Some are slippery with dust, some sparkle, some look tan or even purple. The rocks go into 2 large boxes that scientists will open back on Earth. They try to plant the American flag, but underneath its surface dust, the moon is like steel. They jab the pole into the hard crust. They twist and turn, leaning with all their might. At last, they're able to balance the staff just barely. A rod across the top keeps the flag unfurled. Then click, Armstrong takes a picture of Aldrin saluting the flag. A surprise call comes from the president. For a priceless moment, all the people on this earth are truly one. A tightness rises in the throats of the astronauts. They feel part of something so much larger than themselves. Yet soon, it is over. They are inside again. This world is not theirs, not their own. Streaks of dirt cover their spacesuits. The smell of the moon dust hits them as they remove their helmets. Like spent cap pistols, they tell each other. They've been awake for 18 hours straight, but it feels like much more. Can they sleep now? Maybe. It's shivery cold in the cramped Eagle. Aldrin curls up on the floor. Armstrong lies in a hammock stretched across the room, exhausted. He looks up. Above him, there is an unshuttered porthole. The Earth stares down. A big blue eyeball, he thinks. He blinks back at the bright blue eye, then turns and tries to sleep. July 21. Unease. Uncertainty. This is the part they are most afraid of. This is the place where things can go terribly wrong. Armstrong and Aldrin stand quietly in the tiny cockpit. Lift off in 1 minute. Away from here, maybe. The Eagle will split into 2 parts. The upper half must fly up. The lower will stay on the moon, a permanent monument. Will the engine light? Will it keep on burning? They try to ease their worries, but there's no escape from this. No backing up, no doing it again, no second try. They know one thing only: failure means death. The second hand winds down. Now or never. Aldrin's voice cuts into the awful stillness. 3, 2, 1, ascent. At first, a frightening pause. What's happening? Then bang, whoosh, zoom. It feels as if the floor is coming up at them. The Eagle's top half rises like a fast-moving elevator. Its engine leaves a trail of wide, white light. The Eagle soars skyward silently, faster and faster. 50 miles up. Almost a mile a second. Aldrin glances sideways, nods, grins. Into moon orbit, on our way. Higher still, Michael Collins peers through his sextant. Still waiting. Where are they? He scans the sky and sees only blackness. The Columbia has been circling now for over 20 hours. From the far side of the moon, Collins cannot even radio back to the people on Earth. He squints through the sextant's eyepiece again. There, a tiny blinking light in the darkness. He locks his computer on the distant speck, tracking its approach. The Eagle keeps climbing and climbing up and up. It is like an intricate dance. Columbia leads, Eagle follows. All at speeds of over 3,000 miles an hour. Now they fly in perfect formation. Closer, closer. Collins punches hundreds of keystrokes to make the docking work. They touch, they connect. The capture latches snap shut. A small door opens into a tunnel. Look who's here. Welcome. Armstrong and Aldrin come floating through. It is the final orbit around the moon. Can a photo capture the wonder of what they've seen? Not likely. Still, the astronauts hover beside the Columbia's windows, taking pictures. The spacecraft accelerates. It curls around the moon's far edge. It's flung free like the tail-end skater in a game of crack the whip. It soars into the emptiness of space. The astronauts look back with a sad, happy feeling. Hours go by. They can rest at last. They sleep, read, talk, play music. Sometimes they glimpse the slowly receding moon. Was it all a dream? No, we were there. We were there. But mostly their eyes are fixed on another place, blue, white, light brown, shining below them. They want that now, more than anything. A planet of oceans and rivers, of grass and green hills, a world of trees and family and friends. A place called Earth, fragile, beautiful, home. Author's note: a man on the moon. On the moon! The moon! It was July 20, 1969. For one miraculous moment, The playfulness of nursery rhymes, the fantasy of science fiction, and the reality of true science were joined. We, 1 billion more or less of Earth's inhabitants, watched on snow-flecked black and white television screens as a stiff figure climbed down a ladder and planted a boot in the soft dust of another world. How did it come about? When President John F. Kennedy proclaimed in the early 1960s that America would land an astronaut on the moon within the decade, it sounded to many like an unreachable dream, or at least simple politics. And in one sense it was. Kennedy's promise came during the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. The Russians had earlier sent a cosmonaut around the Earth. America responded with its own space program. The big prize was the moon, and the race was on. The amount of money, the people hours, the planning, the trials and errors, and the dogged belief of thousands of men and women, all that went into that first step in the soft dust, is beyond the scope of this book. But the result of that dedicated effort, America's moon landing, may well be the single most concentrated and successful effort to achieve one great goal in human history. Where the United States space program is going today is unclear. Our technological power has increased to an amazing degree in the past half-century. Today, one tiny chip can hold far more information and facilitate far more activities than even the hugest, bulkiest computer a half-century ago. What we do with this new power in regard to space travel is still to be decided. What is our next destination? There are millions of galaxies in the universe besides ours, the Milky Way. Traveling to one of them, perhaps at the speed of light, may seem impossible now, but remember, space exploration of any kind once seemed impossible. So don't be too sure. One thing, though, is certain. Regardless of what occurs in the future, nothing can diminish the heroic achievement and sublime beauty of the moment when humans first landed on Earth's one and only moon. And today, they're talking about returning to the moon, and they're even talking about possibly traveling and exploring Mars. So who knows what the future will bring in space exploration? The book we just read was One Giant Leap by Robert Burleigh, with paintings by Mike Wimmer. And if you are interested in NASA and astronauts and any kind of space travel, we have many books here at the library. We just got a new book about the space race to the moon. Or maybe you're just interested in the sky, and we have many books about stars, the moon, and all of the planets. So if you want, you can order any of these books and be able to pick them up. And hopefully soon you'll be able to come to the library and find these books on your own. So I hope you found this interesting, and I hope you might want to find out more about the first moon landing. So until next time, my name's Mary, and I'm coming to you from the Portland Public Library in Portland, Maine. Bye-bye.